In a city where legends don't die, they just learn to hide in plain sight. The most lethal threats are the ones disguised as everyday service. The brass lantern wasn't a bar. It was a graveyard for secrets, camouflaged in whiskey and dim amber glow. Gangsters sealed fates over rare scotch. Corrupt officials buried evidence in cigar smoke. And men like Kang Chi came to savor the illusion that their bloody thrones were finally secure. He sat at the scarred wooden counter beneath lights that flickered like dying embers, cufflinks glinting cold, face etched from granite and unspoken wars. To the headlines that painted him as a reclusive tycoon, he was the entrepreneur who turned Seoul's shadows into gold. To the underworld that still feared his whisper, he was the Butcher of Incheon, the phantom who'd vanished empires and left rivers of red in his wake. Tonight, he was nursing a whiskey, ice clinking like distant gunfire, pretending retirement suited him. Amber glided through the haze like a ghost in an apron. She didn't pour with the flirtatious flourish of the other staff. Her smiles were rare, her presence a quiet void that swallowed attention. Her hands, scarred faint beneath the sleeves, handled glasses with the economy of someone who'd killed more than she'd served. Kang noticed, of course he did. There was something in her peripheral sweeps, the way she measured shadows and doorways. Not a waitress's hustle, but an assassin's vigilance. Her stance screamed restrained lightning, not submission. She navigated the room as if it were a minefield, always one step from detonation. Except tonight, the fuse was already lit. At 9:15 p.m., the bar still breathed in hushed deals and rain-slicked streets outside. By 9:17, it belonged to the dead. But to grasp how a simple waitress with blood on her apron became the razor between a mafia king and oblivion, you need to know that Amber wasn't polished in Seoul's service alleys. She was tempered in fires, far crueler places where loyalty was forged in betrayal and survival meant becoming the blade no one saw coming. And Kang Chi? He'd built a lifetime convincing himself that power armored him against the past. Tonight, three masked shadows with guns raised and a grudge etched in old scars were here to strip that illusion bare. Welcome back, my shadowed seekers and midnight wanderers. Before the blood spills further, hit that subscribe, drop a like, and whisper in the comments where this tale finds you tonight. Your energy fuels these dark journeys. We're a family unbound by light. So dim the world, lean close, and let me pull you into Seoul's underbelly. The bottles didn't break, they erupted. One heartbeat, the brass lantern pulsed with a low thrum of power and poured amber. The next, reality shattered into muzzle flashes and screams. Amber's instincts ignited before her mind caught up, the acrid sting of cordite slamming her like an old lover, sharp and unforgiving. Her body dropped low, muscles coiling as violence bloomed vicious around her. Three gangsters in black masks stormed through the door, rifles barking with the arrogance of men who'd ambushed before and walked away richer. They fanned out, precision honed for one target, the man at the bar. But Kang Chi didn't flinch. His whiskey glass still at his lips, he moved like smoke, turning solid, hand flashing inside his jacket, revolver materializing as he fired twice, dropping the lead shadow with knees shattered. The second lunged, Kang sidestepped, grabbing the rifle barrel and yanking the attacker off balance, driving an elbow into the throat that crushed windpipe and hope alike. Amber surged forward. She hurled her tray like a shuriken. It cracked against the third masked man's visor, staggering him. In a blur, she drew the hidden blades from her forearms, ornate gold hilts flashing under the lights, sleeves rolling back to reveal the weapons she'd worn like jewelry. She met the dazed gunman mid-charge, one blade slicing across his wrist to send the rifle spinning, the other plunging silent into his side. He gasped, collapsing in a spray of red that matched the stains blooming on her white shirt. The last attacker swung toward Kang, finger tightening, but Amber was there, blade whispering across his neck in a final, elegant arc. Silence crashed down heavier than the gunfire. Three bodies slumped amid shattered glass and pooling whiskey flames. Kang lowered his glass finally, untouched save for a graze on his cheek, suit impeccable amid the ruin. He looked like a king who'd just remembered his crown was forged in hell. Amber stood over the carnage, blades dripping, chest rising in controlled breaths, apron torn and bloodied. Their eyes locked across the wreckage. His were storm-dark, piercing, alive with a predatory spark that stole the air. Not fear. Not thanks. Something rawer, more primal. You move like poetry in a bloodbath, he murmured, voice gravel over ice. But you paused. That last one, you could have ended him sooner. Amber's grip tightened on her blade, the ornate dagger still poised. I did end him. Just not for you. Kang stepped through the bodies, unhurried, blood flecking his cuffs like expensive cologne. He loomed close. Magnificent in destruction. Who are you? A command, not curiosity. Amber's heart thundered, the hidden blade itching for his throat. Someone who was never meant to be seen. Someone who was never meant to be seen. The words hung between them like the smoke curling from the barrel of Kang's revolver. For one heartbeat, the ruined bar was silent except for the crackle of flames devouring $1,000 whiskey and the wet drip of blood on hardwood. Then Jules laughed. He had been playing dead in the shadows near the jukebox, mask half torn, one eye swollen shut, the other gleaming with manic delight. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth as he pushed himself up on one elbow, the other arm hanging useless where Amber's blade had opened it from wrist to elbow. Kang's revolver snapped toward him, without hesitation. Amber's blades rose in perfect sync. Too late. Jules was already speaking, voice rasping like gravel in a blender. He said you'd never see it coming, old man. The sentence landed heavier than any bullet. Kang's finger whitened on the trigger. Amber felt the name before it was spoken. Felt it crawl up her spine like ice water. White Phoenix sends its regards, Jules wheezed, grinning red. Tell the bitch. She was always the spare. His head fell back. The grin stayed. Dead, finally. But the damage was done. Amber's blades lowered a fraction. The ornate hilts suddenly felt cold, foreign like relics from a grave she'd clawed her way out of years ago. Kang didn't move. His eyes flicked from the corpse to her face, sharp as broken glass. White Phoenix, he repeated, tasting the syllables like poison. That unit was erased. Busan. All of them. Not all, Amber said. Her voice sounded distant, like someone else speaking through her mouth. Flames roared higher behind the bar, licking the ceiling now, painting their faces in hellish orange. Sirens wailed closer, 3 blocks, maybe 2. Seoul's night was waking up. Kang stepped over Musk's body, boots crunching glass and bone fragments. He stopped an arm's length away, close enough for her to see the thin line of blood tracking from his hairline down the side of his neck. It made him look almost human. You're her, he said quietly, the ghost. The one who never came home. Amber's laugh came out cracked. You mean the one you left to burn? Kang's expression didn't change, but something ancient moved behind his eyes. Recognition. Calculation. Maybe regret, though she'd sooner believe in unicorns. I left a lot of things to burn, he said. Most of them deserved it. The back bar mirrors shattered under the heat, raining silver slivers like deadly snow. A bottle of something expensive exploded, sending a fresh wave of fire across the counter. The brass lantern was dying, and it wanted to take them with it. Amber sheathed her blade slow, deliberate, never breaking eye contact. You have 30 seconds, Kang said, producing a black card from his breast pocket. Same as always, no name, just a number in silver foil. My driver's out back. Black Genesis, plates you won't remember. Get in, or disappear forever. Your choice. He flicked the card. It spun through the air, landing point first in the pool of blood between them. Amber didn't pick it up. 20 seconds, he said. She glanced at Jules' corpse. At the message carved in his dying grin. White Phoenix sends its regards. The unit wasn't dead. Someone had kept the ashes. Someone had fanned them back to life. And they'd sent 3 idiots with guns as the opening act. Amber crouched, plucked the card from the blood, and wiped it clean on Jules' jacket. The paper came away stained red anyway. I don't ride with ghosts, she said. Kang's mouth curved, not quite a smile. Then run, little Phoenix. But ashes have a way of following the wind. A beam crashed down behind the bar, sending sparks exploding outward. The heat was unbearable now, sweat mixing with blood on Amber's skin. Kang turned his back on her arrogant bastard and walked through the front door into the strobing red-blue lights. Two black SUVs screeched to the curb. Doors opened. Suits poured out, efficient, silent. They'd handle the bodies, the fire, the story. By morning, the brass lantern would be a gas leak. Tragic. Unsolved. Amber went out the back. The alley stank of rain and garbage and old blood. She moved fast, apron discarded in a dumpster, blades hidden again beneath civilian sleeves. The city swallowed her neon veins, crowded streets, 1,000 faces that didn't look twice at a woman with someone else's blood drying on her collar. But she felt the eyes anyway. On the rooftop across the street. In the reflection of a passing taxi window. In the crawl of instinct between her shoulder blades. White Phoenix wasn't done. And neither, apparently, was Kang Chi. She pulled out the black card. Turned it over. On the back, in handwriting she hadn't noticed before. Midnight. Pierre Decept, come alone. Or don't come at all. Amber stared at the Han River, glittering under poisoned streetlights. Then she hailed a taxi, gave an address 3 districts away, and settled back against cracked vinyl that smelled like cigarette ghosts. The driver glanced in the mirror. Rough night? You have no idea, she said. As the taxi pulled away, the brass lantern collapsed behind her, a final roar of flame and timber, lighting up the Seoul skyline like a funeral pyre. Amber closed her eyes. 3 weeks ago, she'd been nobody. Tonight, she was a message. Tomorrow she'd deliver one of her own. The fire in the glass wasn't out. It was just getting started. Someone who was never meant to be seen. Amber vanished through the back door before Kang's men could catalog her face. The rain hit her like 1,000 cold needles, washing blood from her sleeves in thin pink rivers that swirled into the alley drains. Seoul's storm didn't care about corpses or legends. It just kept falling, hard and indifferent. She didn't look back. The brass lantern was already dying behind her, timbers groaning, flames hissing under the downpour, the last of its amber light bleeding out into the night. By dawn it would be a skeleton. By noon, a headline. By tomorrow, a ghost story no one would tell straight. Amber moved fast, hood up, boots silent on slick concrete. 3 blocks north, she slipped into a 24-hour jjimjilbang, paid cash for a locker, and disappeared into the steam. 10 minutes later the blood was gone, the apron incinerated in the sauna's trash chute, the blades cleaned and reshaved against her forearms like loyal dogs. She stared at her reflection in the fogged mirror, eyes too old for the face, mouth set in a line that hadn't smiled since Busan. The black card sat heavy in her pocket, Kang's number burned into matte stock like a brand. White Phoenix sends its regards. The words looped in her head, louder than the rain. She left the jjimjilbang through a service exit, melted into the subway crowds at Sindarim Station, and surfaced 20 minutes later in a neighborhood that didn't exist on tourist maps. Her apartment was a windowless box above a pojang matcha that smelled eternally of grilled pork and regret. Safe. Forgettable. Hers. Except tonight it didn't feel safe. The door was unlocked. Amber froze on the threshold, blades half drawn before her brain caught up. 1 breath. 2. She nudged the door open with her foot. The single bulb overhead flickered once, then steadied. Everything was exactly as she'd left it, futon rolled tight, hot plate cold, the tiny altar in the corner still holding a stick of incense burned down to ash. Except for the envelope on the floor. Thick cream paper, no writing on the outside. Slid under the door while she was busy saving a man she should have let die. Amber crouched, scanned the room again, corners, ceiling, under the table. Clear. She picked up the envelope with 2 fingers, flipped it. Wax seal, old school. A phoenix rising from flames, wings spread wide. Hair's stomach dropped. Inside, a single Polaroid. Herself, 3 hours ago, standing behind the bar at the Brass Lantern, Kang in the foreground, whiskey glass halfway to his lips, a red circle drawn around her head. Below it, in handwriting she didn't recognize. You were never the spare. You were the insurance. Amber's fingers went numb. The photo trembled, then stilled. Busan flashed gunfire in the warehouse. Screams cut short, the smell of burning plastic, and worse. She'd crawled out through a drainage pipe, lungs full of smoke, the only one who'd made it. Official story. Entire white Phoenix LK, Kang's signature on the report. Insurance. Someone had known she'd survive. Someone had planned for it. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. She almost crushed it. She answered anyway. "You're late," Kang said. No greeting, no surprise. Like he'd been waiting. Amber leaned against the wall, blades itching. "You're supposed to be dead." Disappointed? "Working on it." Silence stretched, filled with rain against the window and the low hum of the city. "You got the photo," he said. Not a question. "You sent it?" "I sent the car that followed you from the lantern." "Same difference." A pause. "You're bleeding again." She glanced down, fresh red seeping through her jacket, where a stray splinter had reopened a cut. She hadn't felt it. "Come to the penthouse," Kang said. "Top of the Lotus Tower. My doctor's discreet." "So am I." Amber laughed, short and sharp. "You think I'm stupid? I think you're curious. And I think whoever sent Jules is cleaning house, starting with ghosts." Another pause. She could hear ice clinking in his glass, steady as a metronome. "Pier 17 backup plan is burned," he continued. "New meet. 1 hour. Bring the photo." He hung up. Amber stared at the dead phone, then at the Polaroid. Insurance. She torn the photo in half, then quarters, then let the pieces flutter into the trash like white ash. But the image stayed burned behind her eyes. 45 minutes later, she was on the roof of the Lotus Tower, wind whipping her hair into ropes, city sprawled below like a circuit board of neon and sin. Kang waited alone, no bodyguards visible, though she counted at least 4 sniper glints on adjacent buildings. He stood at the edge, rain soaking his black coat, side already bandaged fresh under the shirt. He didn't turn when her boots hit the gravel. "You came," he said. "Don't flatter yourself." She stopped 5 paces back, blades loose in their sheaths. "Talk." Kang turned slowly. The city lights carved hollows under his eyes, made the dragon tattoo on his neck look alive. "Minsu," he said. "My old lieutenant, thought he died in the same fire that cooked your team. Apparently he's been playing possum. Building something new, calling it White Phoenix Reborn." A humorless smile. "Poetic bastard." Amber's pulse spiked. "You're lying." "Check my phone." He tossed it over. She caught it one-handed. Encrypted texts. Photos. Bank transfers. A grainy video still. Minsu, older, scarred, standing in a warehouse with a dozen masked figures. Phoenix emblem, freshly painted on the wall behind them. Her throat closed. "He wants me broken," Kang said quietly. "Piece by piece. Starting with the legend, ending with the man." He met her eyes. "You were never supposed to survive Busan. You were the failsafe. If I ever fell, you'd rise from the ashes and finish what he couldn't." Amber's blades whispered free an inch. "Why tell me?" "Because I need the only person Minsu didn't plan for." Kang stepped closer, rain streaming down his face. "The spare who isn't spare anymore." Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating them both, 2 predators soaked in the same storm. Amber stared at him for a long moment. Then she sheathed her blades. "Terms," she said. Kang's smile was small, sharp, real for the first time. "No running. No mercy. We burn him first." Amber extended her hand, not trust, not yet. An alliance forged in rain and old blood. Kang took it. His grip was warm, steady, scarred like hers. Below them, Seoul kept breathing, oblivious, hungry, alive. Above them, thunder rolled like laughter from gods who'd seen this story before. The aftermath wasn't cleanup. It was ignition. The taxi dropped her 3 blocks from home on purpose. Amber paid in cash, no words, and melted into the side streets before the brake lights faded. Seoul at 2 a.m. was a different animal, neon bleeding into puddles, drunk salarymen singing off-key, knife-sharp wind off the Han carrying the smell of fried chicken and gunpowder ghosts. She took the long way. Up the fire escape of a closed pojangmacha, across 2 rooftops slick with rain, down a drain pipe that groaned like it remembered her weight from last month. No cameras. No witnesses. Just the city and the girl it had never quite managed to kill. Her apartment was on the fourth floor of a building that had forgotten its own name, door 407. No number anymore, just a rust hole where the screws used to be. She slipped the key in, turned it twice left, once right. Old habit. Old lock, old life. Inside, the place breathed silence. One room. No windows. A single bulb dangling from a frayed cord. Mattress on the floor, sheets the color of nicotine. A hot plate that worked when it felt like it. A steel sink scarred from years of sharpening edges that weren't cutlery. Home. Amber locked the door, slid the deadbolt, chained it, then wedged the chair under the knob for good measure. She peeled off the ruined waitress uniform, white shirt now a Jackson Pollock of other people's endings, and let it fall into a trash bag. Evidence. Tomorrow it would burn in some abandoned lot. The blades came next. She laid them on the small folding table like surgeons lay out instruments. Or priests lay out relics, or lovers lay out lies. Ornate gold hilts, worn smooth by her palms. Blades thin as secrets, etched with characters no one alive could read anymore. White Phoenix issue. One of a kind. Supposed to be buried with their owners. She filled the sink with water, so hot it steamed. Added salt, added vinegar. Old cleaner's trick ate blood before it could stain the steel. While they soaked, she stripped a skin, checked herself in the cracked mirror above the sink. Bruises blooming across her ribs where Odie's rifle butt had kissed her. A thin line across her collarbone, Musk's wild shot grazing flesh. Nothing deep. Nothing that wouldn't heal into another story her body kept for her. She washed in cold water. No time for heat, scrubbed until her skin screamed, until the night's blood circled the drain like cheap Merlot. Then the blades. She dried them with a microfiber cloth that had never known anything softer than steel. Oiled the hinges. Honed the edges on a pocket whetstone until they could part air molecules. When she finished, the room smelled of gun oil and ghosts. The TV was older than her fake ID. She turned it on low, volume just enough to catch lies. Police are calling it a tragic failed robbery at the Brass Lantern Lounge in Itaewon. 3 suspects dead, no civilians harmed. Investigators believe the fire started from spilled alcohol ignited by stray rounds. Amber muted it. Failed robbery. She almost laughed. Her phone buzzed on the counter, burner number 3 this month. Unknown caller. She let it ring out. 10 seconds later, a text. Unknown. Pier 17. Midnight tomorrow. Or, we start with the girl who pours your coffee. No signature. Didn't need one. White Phoenix always did like poetic threats. She deleted the message, crushed the SIM with pliers, flushed it. New SIM tomorrow. New number, same war. Sleep was a joke, but her body demanded tribute. She lay on the mattress, fully dressed, black cargos, black hoodie, blades strapped to forearms beneath sleeves that looked innocent. One hand on the grip of the compact Glock under the pillow. The dark pressed in, thick and familiar. And the memories came. Busan. 4 years ago. Pier 9. Not 17. Same stink of fish and diesel and betrayal. White Phoenix had been 12 then. The best Kang Chi ever built. Ghosts in human skin. They spoke 6 languages, killed in 32 ways before breakfast, vanished before lunch. The mission brief. Extract a defector from a North Korean cargo ship. Simple, clean, in and out. Except the ship was empty. Except the dock was wired. Except the moment they breached, the world turned to fire and magnesium white. She remembered the sounds first. Always the sounds. Sato screaming as the claymore took his legs. Ji-yoon's voice on comms. It's a trap. It's a cut-off by the wet thunk of a sniper round. Amber had been point. She'd seen the tripwire a heartbeat too late. Dove left instead of right. The blast threw her into the water, lungs full of seawater and blood that wasn't hers. When she crawled out 3 hours later, the pier was ash. 11 bodies. Sarah survivors. Kang's voice on the official channel the next day. White Phoenix is missing, presumed lost. Mission success. Success. She'd vanished then. New face. New name. New life pouring whiskey for men who reminded her of the ones she used to kill. Until tonight. Until 3 idiots with the same entry vectors, same suppressed rifles, same stupid masks. Until Jules' dying grin, and the name that was supposed to be a tombstone. White Phoenix sends its regards. Someone had kept the files. Someone had kept the training. Someone had kept the hate. Amber's eyes snapped open in the dark. The bulb had burned out sometime after 4 a.m., leaving only the red standby glow of the TV painting the room in blood light. She sat up slow. The thought arrived fully formed, cold and clear and poisonous. The man I saved tonight might be the man who destroyed me. Kang Chi had built them. Kang Chi had burned them. Kang Chi had looked into her eyes across 3 corpses and said, "You're her," like he was greeting an old debt. She stood, padded to the sink, splashed more cold water on her face. The mirror showed a woman with eyes too old for the face they lived in. Tomorrow, pure decept. Midnight. She could ghost. Disappear for real this time. New country. New language. New graves. Or she could walk into the trap and see whose throat her blades kissed first. Amber dried her hands on a towel that had never been soft. She looked at the blades gleaming on the table. Then at the black card Kang had thrown into the blood. 2 invitations. Same hour. Different senders. She smiled in the dark, small, sharp, the kind of smile that had made stronger men piss themselves in different life. Sleep finally took her, but it was the sleep of wolves between hunts. Dreams came in flashes, fire on water, Kang's voice over the radio declaring them missing, her own hand reaching through flames for teammates already gone. She woke at dusk with the answer settled in her bones like cold steel. Pure decept. Midnight. She'd be there, but not as prey. Never again as prey. The ghosts of White Phoenix were calling her home. Amber tightened the straps on her blades, pulled the hood up, and stepped into the Seoul night. Time to remind them what happens when the last phoenix learns how to burn. The penthouse crown of the Lotus Tower pierced Seoul's night like a blade aimed at heaven. Floor 93. Bulletproof glass from floor to ceiling, city sprawled beneath like a circuit board of neon sins. Kang Chi stood at the window, whiskey untouched on the obsidian side table, blood finally cleaned from his cuffs, but still warm in his memory. He looked like a king surveying a kingdom he'd already half-burned. The graze on his cheek had scabbed black. The suit was new charcoal, Italian, cut to hide the shoulder holster that never left his body anymore. Retirement, he told the mirrors. A fucking joke. His phone was a custom satellite brick, untraceable, unhackable. He thumbed one number. It rang once. Boss. Taeho's voice, gravel and loyalty. Talk to me about the 3 corpses. A pause, keyboard clacks, files opening. Names finally came back. Jules Kim, Musk Park. Odi Han. Small-time muscle out of Incheon. Last 6 months, they've been running errands for a ghost account wired out of Macau, shell company behind shell company. But the routing signature. Minsu, Kang said. Not a question. Taeho exhaled. Yeah, Minsu. Thought we buried that name in Busan. Kang's reflection stared back, eyes flat, mouth a razor line. We buried a lot of names in Busan. Another silence. Taeho knew better than to fill it. Minsu was the architect, Kang continued, voice low enough to chill the glass. He planned the routes, the safe houses, the exfil for White Phoenix. He knew every weakness we had because he built half of them. He turned from the window, paced the marble that cost more per square foot than most people earned in a year. He's not after money, Taeho. Not territory. Not even the old routes. Kang stopped, stared at the Rothko on the wall, blood red slashes that suddenly looked too familiar. He's after me, piece by piece. Starting with the one piece I thought was Ash. The girl, Taeho said. Amber. The name tasted like smoke and old regrets. Find her, bring her in. Willing or not. Already on it. Teams at her building now. Kang ended the call. Stared at the city again. Minsu. The last man he'd ever trusted. The last man he'd left to die. Busan had been supposed to clean house. One traitor in White Phoenix feeding intel to the north. Minsu had volunteered to root them out. Instead, He'd vanished in the blast, body never found. Convenient. Kang's knuckles whitened around the phone. He'd built an empire on ghosts. Now one was coming to collect. Across the river, in a neighborhood even the rats avoided after dark, Amber felt the net tighten. She'd left the apartment at dusk, hood up, blades singing soft against her forearms. Routine supply run new burner, cheap bibimbap, maybe a glance at the board for jobs that didn't ask questions. But the itch between her shoulder blades started 3 blocks out. Black Hyundai Genesis, tinted illegal dark, parked under the broken street lamp opposite her building. 2 silhouettes inside. Engine off. No exhaust plume in the cold. Professionals. She kept walking, hands in pockets, pace casual, turned the corner into the alley that stank of kimchi brine and cat piss. Counted heartbeats. 20 seconds later, the Hyundai rolled past the alley mouth. Slow. Hunting. Amber smiled in the dark, small, feral. She climbed the rusted fire escape 2 floors up, moved rooftop to rooftop like the city was her personal jungle gym. Dropped into the back alley behind her building, slipped through the service door she'd jimmied months ago. Up the stairs. Silent. Her apartment door was cracked open. 2 of Kang's men inside, big suits, bigger egos. One sweeping the room with a red dot pistol like he expected her to pop out of the rice cooker. The other photographing the Blades table with his phone. Amateur. She watched from the ventilation shaft she'd never told anyone about. Waited until the photographer turned his back. Then, she dropped. Landed cat-soft behind him. Blade at his throat before his brain registered the draft. Tell Kang, she whispered, breath warm against his ear. Next time he wants a date, he can ask himself. The other guy spun, gun rising. Amber flicked her wrist. Second blade buried itself in the drywall an inch from his eye. Both men froze. She stepped back, palms open, innocent. Mirrors in the bathroom, she said. Read it on your way out. They didn't need telling twice. Backed out slow, hands visible, eyes promising future violence. The door clicked shut. Amber waited another minute. Then 2. She walked to the bathroom, flicked on the single bulb. Lipstick cheap red, the kind street girls use scrawled across the cracked mirror in her own handwriting. You trained me to survive. You shouldn't have. Below it, a doodle, a tiny phoenix, wings on fire. She wiped the glass clean with her sleeve. Left no prints. No trace. Grabbed the go bag from under the floorboard, cash, passports, one photo she never looked at anymore. The blades went into forearm sheaths. The Glock into her waistband. Then she was gone. Out the window, down the drain pipe, into the night that belonged to people who didn't exist on paper. Her burner buzzed as she hit street level. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then thumbed accept. Pier 17, Kang's voice said, low and rough as broken glass. Midnight. Minsu's playing both of us. Come, or spend the rest of your short life looking over your shoulder for ghosts that already know your scent. Static. She stared at the phone. 2 invitations. 1 trap. Amber deleted the call log, crushed the phone under her boot heel, and started walking south, toward the river. Toward Pier 17. Toward the man who'd built her, broken her, and now needed her to save him from the monster he'd helped create. The city lights blurred past red, blue, gold. Seoul never slept, but tonight it felt like it was holding its breath. Shadows lengthened behind her. Betrayal tasted like copper on her tongue. And somewhere in the dark, Minsu smiled. The game, it seemed, had only just begun. Pier 17 never happened. Amber circled it twice, once on foot, once from the roof of a frozen fish warehouse, counted 8 snipers, 3 drone signatures, and 1 idiot smoking under a floodlight who didn't know his thermal scope was backwards. Minsu's welcome mat. She left it unstained. Instead, she vanished south, traded the go bag for a bartender's vest, and resurfaced in Mapogu, where the hipsters feared to tread. A basement joint called The Vault, concrete walls, sweating condensation, jazz so dirty it needed a shower, patrons who paid in cash and asked no names. She poured soju like she'd never left the life. Smiled with her mouth only, kept the blades under the counter this time, within finger's reach. 3 nights. No sign of Kang. No sign of Minsu. Just the low hum of the city, pretending it wasn't bleeding. On the 4th night, the door at the top of the stairs opened, and the air changed. He didn't slink. Didn't announce. Just descended the metal steps like gravity owed him favors. Black coat, no tie, collar open just enough to show the scars she'd once stitched in a safe house outside Pyongyang. Every eye in the room flicked toward him, then away faster. Predators recognizing apex. Kang Chi slid onto the only empty stool directly in front of her. Amber didn't flinch. Just kept polishing a glass that was already clean. Still hiding in plain sight? His voice cut through the saxophone like a scalpel. She set the glass down, poured him 2 fingers of something 30 years old without asking. Still pretending you're human? The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. He didn't touch the drink. Pier 17 was a slaughter pen. You didn't show. I don't do cattle calls. Smart. Minsu brought friends. The kind that leave teeth on the concrete. Amber leaned in, elbows on the bar, close enough to smell gun oil and winter on his coat. Why are you here, Kang? To warn me? Save me? Or just to see if I still flinch when you say his name? His eyes flicked to her forearms where the blades slept. All 3. Minsu's not hunting territory. He's hunting legacies. Starting with mine. Ending with yours. She laughed, low and bitter. You think I need your protection? I buried your last 3 messengers in the Han. Those were appetizers. Kang finally lifted the glass, inhaled the whiskey like it was a memory. He's got 12 now. White Phoenix remnants. The ones who crawled out of Busan with grudges sharper than your steel. They're wearing your old playbook, Amber. Same formations, same silencers. Same fucking poetry. Her fingers tightened around the rag. He noticed. Of course he did. I can put you somewhere safe, he said. Private island, new name. Enough money to buy silence for 3 lifetimes. Amber poured herself a shot, downed it without blinking. I tried safe. It tasted like ashes. Kang leaned closer. Then let me give you purpose. Help me end him. 1 bullet, 1 blade. Clean. Their faces were inches apart now. Old electricity crackled Busan nights, shared cigarettes on rooftops, the moment before a kill when the world narrowed to heartbeats. Amber opened her mouth to tell him where he could shove his purpose. The mirror behind her exploded. Glass rained like crystal shrapnel. The bottle of Glenlivet beside her head became mist and fire. Kang moved first, hand snapping out, grabbing her wrist, yanking her down behind the bar as the second shot punched through the wood where her chest had been. Patrons screamed, scattered, stampeded up the stairs like rats with PhDs in self-preservation. Amber came up firing the Glock she kept taped under the counter, spitting 3 rounds through the smoke. Kang was already vaulting the bar, revolver barking twice. A body on the mezzanine dropped, rifle clattering down the steps. Back door, he growled. She didn't argue. They moved like they'd never stopped her left, him right, covering angles that used to be second nature. Another shooter at the top of the stairs. Amber's blade took him in the eye before he could swing the muzzle down. Kang's bullet took the second in the throat. Blood painted the concrete warm. They burst through the service exit into the alley, neon flickering pink and corpse blue, rain hissing on rusted dumpsters, 2 more shadows detached from the dark. Kang shoved her left. She rolled, came up slicing. Blade met Kevlar, found the gap under the armpit. The man gurgled, folded. Kang's revolver clicked empty. He used it like a club temple. Once, lights out. Silence fell, broken only by rain and distant sirens. They stood back to back in the alley mouth, breathing hard, steam rising off their skin. Amber reloaded without looking. Your warning's a little late. Kang ejected his spent mag, slammed a fresh one home. Minsu's getting desperate. That means he's close. She turned, faced him. Rain streaked the blood on his cheek like war paint. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, you still fight like you're trying to prove something, he said. You still fight like you've got nothing left to lose, she shot back. His laugh was soft, surprised. Real. The neon sign above them buzzed, flickered, died, plunging the alley into wet darkness broken only by a distant street lamp. Amber felt it again, that pull. Muscle memory deeper than skin. The way he angled his body to shield her left side without thinking. The way she mirrored his stance without conscious choice. Busan. All over again. Only this time, the fire was real. Kang broke the silence first. Come with me. One night. My safe house in Yeouido. We plan. We end this. She wanted to say no. Wanted to vanish into the rain and never see his face again. Instead, she heard herself ask, "Your driver still keeps spare blades in the glove box?" He smiled, small, sharp, the one that used to mean someone was about to die beautifully. Upgraded to carbon fiber. Sirens closer now. Red blue lights painting the alley walls. Amber holstered the Glock, wiped rain and blood from her eyes. "One night," she said. "Then we're even." Kang offered his hand, not for a shake, for pulling her into the shadows. She took it. They disappeared into the neon veins of Mapo as the first police cruiser screamed past two ghosts who'd once burned the world together, now running side by side through the ashes. The night swallowed them whole. And for the first time since Busan, neither of them ran alone. The Genesis purred through Yeouido's back streets like a shark cutting black water. No lights, no plates. Just the low growl of German engineering and two ghosts in the backseat who'd forgotten how to trust. Kang's driver's stone-faced statue named Ji-hoon killed the engine 2 blocks from the safe house. Old habit. Never arrive where they expect. They walked the rest. Rain had stopped, leaving the air heavy with wet asphalt and the metallic tang of the river. Kang's hand hovered near the small of her back, not touching, just close enough to feel the heat. Amber let it. For now. The building looked abandoned. Boarded windows, graffiti tags older than K-pop. Inside, it was Fortress Seoul retinal scanners, pressure plates, a foyer that could gas you before you blinked. Elevator dropped them 3 floors below street level. Doors opened to a loft that cost more than most countries' defense budgets. Floor-to-ceiling armor glass overlooking the Han. Kitchen that could feed a platoon or poison one. Walls lined with screens cycling feeds from half the city's cameras. Home sweet bunker. Kang shrugged out of his coat, tossed it on a chair like he wasn't bleeding from a fresh graze on his ribs. Poured 2 glasses of something amber and ancient. Offered one. Amber didn't take it. "Start talking," she said. Voice flat, deadly. Kang sipped his own. Stared at the river lights dancing on black water. "Busan," he said finally. "You want the version they buried, or the one I burned?" She stepped closer. Blades still sheathed, but her fingers twitched like they remembered his pulse points. "Try the one where my team isn't ash because of you." He set the glass down. Turned to face her fully. There was a mole. White Phoenix feeding routes to the north. Every op compromised, every safe house raided. I lost 3 shipments, 8 men, and damn near my left kidney in a drive-by that shouldn't have happened. Amber's jaw tightened. "So you sacrificed the rest of us to flush them out?" Kang's eyes didn't flinch. "Yes." The word landed like a detonator. He kept going, voice steady as a funeral drum. Minsu volunteered to plan the Busan exfil, said he'd root the traitor out quietly. Instead, he wired the pier himself. Claymores on motion sensors. RPGs in the cranes. The defector was never real, just bait to get the whole unit in one place. Amber felt the room tilt. The screens blurred. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears like incoming artillery. "You used us as bait," she whispered. Kang took 1 step closer. "I used you as the trapdoor. The one person I knew wouldn't die easy. The one who'd crawl out and lead me back to whoever lit the match." She laughed sharp, broken. The sound of glass dragged across concrete. "I was the spare," she said. "The acceptable loss." "You were the insurance policy," he corrected. "And you were supposed to stay lost." Amber's hand moved before thought. Blade sliding free with that familiar whisper, steel on leather, promise on flesh. She lunged. Crossbody slash aimed to open his carotid in one elegant arc. Kang didn't dodge. He stood there, arms loose at his sides, throat exposed like an offering. The blade stopped a hair's breadth from his skin. trembling, not from fear, from the effort of not finishing it. They were close enough now for her to see the flecks of gold in his irises, close enough to smell the whiskey on his breath and the copper underneath. "If you kill me," he said quietly, "you'll never find Minsu." The words were softer than the blade. Amber's grip tightened until her knuckles went white. "He's running the remnants," Kang continued. "The ones who survived Busan because they were in on it. They think I'm the devil. You're the proof I can be touched. Kill me, and they disappear. You'll spend the rest of your life waiting for a bullet that might come tomorrow, or in 20 years. Her arm shook. The blade kissed his skin just enough to draw a single red bead that traced down his collar like a tear. "I should do it anyway," she hissed. "For Sato, for Jiyoon, for every scream I still hear when I close my eyes." Kang's gaze never wavered. "Then do it," he said. "But know this, Minsu's endgame isn't revenge, it's exposure. He's got the files, every black op, every ghost account, every politician I own. One data drop and the entire house falls. Yours included. You think disappearing worked before? Try it when your face is on every most wanted list from Seoul to Langley." The blade pressed deeper. Another bead of blood. Amber felt the rage crest white-hot, blinding, then crash against something colder. Restraint. She'd learned it in fire, perfected it in graves. Slowly, God. So slowly, she lowered the blade. The tip scraped his collarbone, leaving a thin red line like a signature. Kang exhaled. Barely. Amber stepped back. Sheathed the blade with a click that sounded final. "You don't get to die yet," she said. Voice raw. "Not until I watch Minsu bleed out at your feet. Then we'll renegotiate." Kang touched the cut on his throat, studied the blood on his fingers like it was ink from an old contract. "Deal," he said. He walked to the wall panel, pressed his palm to it. A section slid open, armory behind glass. Blades. Guns. Things that didn't have names in polite company. "Gear up," he said. "Minsu's hosting a ghost reunion tomorrow night. Old fertilizer plant on the edge of Incheon. Invitation only." Amber stared at the arsenal, then at the man who'd just handed her his life and asked for hers in return. "How many?" she asked. 12. Maybe more. She selected a new blade, carbon fiber, monomolecular edge, white phoenix prototype she'd thought destroyed with the rest. "Enough for a bonfire," she said. Kang poured 2 fresh glasses. This time, she took one. They clinked crystal on crystal, blood on blood. Outside, the Han kept flowing, black and indifferent. Inside, 2 predators sharpened their teeth on the same betrayal. The truth was out. The hunt was on. And somewhere in the dark, Minsu was already counting down. The clink of crystal hung in the air like a death knell. Amber downed the whiskey in one burn, set the glass beside Kang's 2 empty vessels reflecting the cold light of vengeance. Kang didn't smile. Didn't need to. The deal was sealed in blood and silence. He tapped a console. Screens bloomed alive, Seoul's veins mapped in red, gambling dens pulsing like infected nodes, warehouses glowing with heat signatures, corrupt badges tagged in gold. "Minsu's web," he said. "We cut the threads tonight." Amber strapped on the new blade, tested the balance. Lighter than memory, sharper than regret. "Clock's ticking," she said. "Let's hunt." They moved through the city like plague. First stop, Black Tiger Mahjong Parlor in Sinchon. Basement joint where old men bet kidneys and young ones lost futures. Kang walked in like he still owned the air. Amber ghosted the back door, blades whispering. Inside, the air was thick with cigarette haze and desperation. A captain from Gangnam PS recognized Kang, eyes widening like a man seeing his own obituary. Kang leaned over the table, voice soft. "Minsu's new courier. Name. Now." The captain's hand trembled toward his jacket. Amber's blade appeared under his chin from behind, cold kiss of carbon fiber. "Warehouse 17, Old Shipyards," he rasped. "Incheon. Midnight drops, please." Kang straightened. "You just bought yourself a tomorrow." They left him alive. Message sent. Second thread, a container yard in Guro, moonlight glinting off rusted steel tombs. Heat signatures showed 8 guards, lazy rotations. Minsu's guns flowing south. Amber scaled the crane while Kang drew fire below old playbook, new hate. She dropped silent behind the sentry, blade through cervical vertebrae before he could exhale smoke. Alarms shrieked. Floodlights snapped on. Kang was pinned behind a forklift, 2 shooters advancing. Amber ziplined down a cargo cable, landed between them. Twin slashes Achilles, femoral. They bled out screaming. Kang rose, revolver smoking. "You're showing off. Keeping you breathing," she shot back. "Try to keep up." They found the manifest inside, coordinates, dates, a name circled in red. Commissioner Park, National Police Agency. Minsu wasn't just arming ghosts, he was buying the law. Third stop. A love motel in Yeongdeungpo where the commissioner liked his bribes with a side of schoolgirls. Kang kicked in the door. Amber took the rooftop. Sniper rifle borrowed from Kang's endless arsenal. Inside, Park was mid-thrust, silk sheets and panic. Kang pressed a Glock to his temple. "Minsu's endgame," Kang growled. "Talk." Park babbled USB drives, dead drops. A press conference scheduled for dawn. Every dirty deal Kang had ever buried, ready to surface on every screen in Korea. And the old man, Park whimpered. "Minsu's father, you hanged him in '98. Said he skimmed. He didn't. Minsu was 12. Watched from the closet." Amber's scope wavered for the first time. Kang's face went stone still. "Finish it," he told her through comms. She could've. One squeeze. Kang's skull painted across cheap wallpaper. Instead, she lowered the rifle. They left Park zip-tied to the bed with his own handcuffs, mouth stuffed with the bribe money. Exposure would hurt worse than death. Back in the Genesis, city lights streaking past like tracer rounds, Amber broke the silence. "His father," she said. "You killed an innocent." Kang's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "I killed a lot of innocents. Difference is, most of them stayed dead." She stared at him. The bar. The ambush. That was just the opening act. "Minsu wants humiliation," Kang said. "Public execution on live feed. Me begging. Then the bullet. He's saving you for dessert, proof his revenge is pure." Amber checked the magazine in her Glock. "He's going to choke on that purity." They hit 2 more nodes before dawn. Corrupt Dockmaster, a hacker den in Hongdae. Each time, Amber pulled Kang out of fire he should have seen coming. Each time, the debt between them grew heavier. By 5 a.m., the safe house armory looked like a war room. Maps pinned with red string. Weapons laid out like surgical tools. Kang cleaned his revolver with the same cloth he'd used the night he built White Phoenix. Amber sharpened blades until they could cut moonlight. He broke the quiet. "When it's done," he asked, voice rough. "What will you do?" She didn't look up. Just tested the edge on her thumb. Watched the blood bead perfect and round. "Bury what's left of you." Kang's laugh was soft, surprised. Almost human. "Fair," he said. He slid a small remote across the table. "Detonator. Linked to charges planted hours ago under the fertilizer plant." "Insurance," he said. "If we fail, Minsu doesn't walk out either." Amber pocketed it without comment. Screens flickered live feed from Incheon. The plant squatted against the water like a rusted cathedral. Heat signatures, 20 bodies. Minsu's remnant phoenixes, armed to the teeth. Kang stood, coat swirling like judgment. "Sun rises in 2 hours," he said. "He'll want the light for the cameras." Amber sheathed the last blade, pulled on the tactical vest that fit like a second skin. "Then let's give him a sunrise he'll never forget." They walked to the elevator side by side. No more words. Just the soft click of magazine seating, the whisper of steel finding home. Predator and prey. Architect and consequence. Bound by the same betrayal, headed for the same grave. The doors closed. The descent began. Somewhere in Incheon, Minsu waited with his father's ghost and a camera crew. He had no idea the fire he'd lit 4 years ago was finally coming home. And it was bringing hell with it. The elevator doors closed on the safe house like a coffin lid. 30 seconds of descent. 30 seconds of silence thick enough to choke on. Amber checked the detonator in her pocket. One click and the whole plant became a crater. Kang watched her do it, eyes unreadable. "Still planning my funeral?" he asked. "Contingencies," she said. "You taught me." The doors opened to the garage. Ji-hoon waited with the Genesis idling, trunk open like a mouth. 2 duffels, ammo, medkits, ghosts from old wars. They drove west. Seoul's skyline shrank in the rearview until only the Han remained black mirror, reflecting a city that never forgave. Incheon's old fertilizer plant rose from the toxic mud like a cathedral built by devils. Rusted silos. Broken catwalks, the river lapping at concrete bones. Same place White Phoenix had staged for Busan. Full circle. Poetic, Minsu would say. Kang killed the lights a kilometer out. They ghosted the rest on foot, moving through waist-high reeds that whispered secrets to the wind. Heat signatures on Kang's wrist tablet. 23 bodies. Trip lasers. Claymores. Drones circling like vultures. Same layout as Busan, Amber murmured. Minsu always did love nostalgia. Kang replied. They split at the perimeter fence, old choreography. New hate. Amber took the high ground, catwalk above the main floor. Kang went low, shadow to shadow. First shot came from a silo sniper. Amber's suppressed round took him through the scope, pink mist and moonlight. The ambush erupted. Floodlights snapped on, blinding white. 20 shadows poured from doorways, White Phoenix masks gleaming bone-white under the glare. Amber dropped among them. Blade sang. One throat opened like a red smile. Another lost fingers to a parried rifle. She moved through them like smoke through cracked glass fluid, ruthless, memory guiding every cut. Below, Kang was art. Revolver barking, bodies folding. He took a burst to the vest, staggered, came up shooting. Knee capped one, throat punched another with the empty gun. They converged in the center back-to-back again, circle of corpses widening. Minsu waited on the old loading platform, spotlit like a ringmaster. No mask. Face older, scarred, eyes burning with 4 years of fire. Cameras rolled behind him, 3 tripods, live feed ready to broadcast Kang's fall to the world. "Welcome home," Minsu called, voice echoing off rusted iron. White Phoenix rises. His men formed a semicircle. Rifles up. 20 became 10 became 5 as Amber and Kang carved forward. Amber vaulted a conveyor belt, blades scissoring 2 more down. Kang flipped a table, used it as cover, blind fired until clicks answered back. Then silence. Just breathing. Just blood. Minsu clapped slow. Beautiful. The monster and his favorite pet. Kang stepped forward, revolver dangling loose. "It's over, Minsu. Your father skimmed. I ended it. Clean." Minsu's laugh cracked like ice. "Clean? You hanged an innocent man because he knew about your little side deal, the North Korean uranium routes you sold behind everyone's back. Busan wasn't to catch a traitor. It was to bury the evidence. My father. The unit. All of it." Amber froze. The words detonated inside her skull. Kang's face didn't change, but his knuckles went white on the revolver. "Truth from a corpse," he said quietly. Minsu raised a tablet. "1 button. Every file goes public. Your empire dies screaming." He turned to Amber. "And you, little ghost. He left you to burn because you were asking questions. About the uranium. About the money. You were never bait for a traitor. You were cleanup." The platform felt suddenly cold. Colder than steel. Colder than graves. Amber's blades rose toward Kang. He didn't move. Minsu smiled. "Do it. For Sato. For Jiun. For the 12-year-old who watched his father choke." Kang met her eyes. "I won't stop you." The detonator in her pocket felt heavier than sin. Amber lunged. Not at Minsu. At Kang? No. Past him. Blade buried in the nearest camera sparks and shattered lens. Second blade took the tablet from Minsu's hand, sent it spinning into the dark. Minsu's eyes widened. "What?" Kang's revolver barked once. Minsu's shoulder bloomed red. But the remnant phoenixes surged. Last stand. Amber fought like Judgment Day. Blades a blur, carving paths through masks that used to be brothers. Kang at her side, emptying mag after mag, taking hits he didn't dodge. A round caught him high in the chest through the vest gap. He went to one knee. Amber screamed rage. Grief, something older spun, took the shooter's head clean off. Minsu, bleeding, laughing, raised a pistol point-blank at Kang's forehead. Amber moved faster than thought. Blade through his wrist, gun clattered, second blade through his throat. Minsu gargled, eyes wide with shock, collapsed bubbling. The last phoenix dropped. Silence. Just river sounds and dying breaths. Amber knelt beside Kang. Blood pooled dark under him, spreading like spilled ink. Factory lights flickered, dying one by one. She pressed hands to the wound, useless, but instinct. Kang's eyes found hers. Glassy, but still sharp. "You were my best creation," he whispered, blood on his lips. "And my biggest mistake." Amber's tears cut tracks through the grime on her cheeks, hot, real. "First in years." "No," she said, voice cracking like thin ice. "I'm your consequence." Sirens wailed in the distance close now. Ji-hoon's cleanup or real cops, didn't matter. Kang's hand found hers, squeezed once. "Weak. Go," he rasped. "Live the life I stole." Amber leaned close, forehead to his. "I already am." She stood. Walked away through the bodies, through the fire that started licking the chemical drum someone's stray round finding a home. Didn't look back when the first charge went off, or the second. The plant bloomed orange behind her, lighting the Han like a second sunrise. She faded into the reeds, into the night, into the city that birthed monsters and swallowed saints. Kang lived barely. Dragged out by shadows loyal to money or fear. Legend said he vanished to some island. Breathing through machines, ruling through whispers. But the hunt continued. Because consequences don't be easy. And somewhere in Seoul's neon veins, a woman with ornate blades still walked. Not ghost, not phoenix. Just amber. Free. The river kept flowing. The city kept burning. And the night, as always, belonged to the ones who refused to stay dead.